And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PMP. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PMP. I'm your host today, TJ Riddell. And I will be doing this solo today, so pretty much a short video here, or pretty much a short live today, because we'll be talking about college football mostly. I just want to get this out of the way. So Tyron Smith, as everybody knows, he's been injured during training camp, and it's not looking good for Tyron Smith, veteran offensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, and they'll be missing him up until December due to an ACL tear. And it's a huge loss for the Cowboys. And I got to say, man, it's looking rough for the Cowboys this offseason with injuries and not making offseason moves. I mean, it's just a mess right now. Now it's starting to look like more and more that the Eagles are starting to climb back up into the NFC East picture for winning the NFC East title. But I'm still sticking to my guns with my pick on the NFC East championship, and that will be Dallas. It'll be close, but also 14 minutes ago, I just hopped on. If you're on right now, welcome. There was a brawl today at the Rams and Bengals practice. I guess a little bit of a smack talking going on in the jointed practice last week of preseason before the actual regular season kicks off. And I guess there's a lot of smack talking between the two teams, even though they just played the Super Bowl and played the Super Bowl against each other. Arguably, in recent memory, one of the best Super Bowls that we've seen in quite some time. And yeah, it's pretty crazy off season so far, especially jointed practices where you see teams fighting each other, teams fighting amongst each other. I mean, it's just been chaos this off season. Yeah, so actually, I was wrong about the ACL tear. It was Tyron Smith's left hamstring. It's torn, not the ACL. I'm glad that I got Facebook and I actually backtrack everything I look. And there's another offensive lineman for the Buccaneers. This is the one where I was talking about ACL, but guard Aaron Stiney, big loss for the Bucs and Tom Brady. He has a season-ending MCL and ACL torn. MCL, ACL during the preseason game against the Tennessee Titans four nights ago. So hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. Len Dawson, former Kansas City Chief great, passed away a couple of days, or yesterday to be exact. He was born in 1935, right before World War II, and he just recently passed away. So my condolences to the Dawson family and the Kansas City Chiefs family as well. The New York Giants, they recently just got a guy who went to the University of Texas, got drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, then got released by the Jaguars this past offseason. It wasn't this offseason. It was the offseason before. And this guy, he's a heck of a talent. I saw him when he was playing for Texas, and Colin Johnson, he was making some heads turn this offseason, but unfortunately he suffered a torn Achilles yesterday at practice. So hopefully he comes back, speedy recovery, and he gets back to it. Next, we got former Seahawks linebacker Shaquin Griffin, former UCF linebacker, retires after 4 seasons in the NFL. I tell you what, this guy has a lot of heart for the game of football. He's missing his left hand, but man, he was making plays that people with 2 hands couldn't make, So, and he could catch the ball too. So, I mean, that's kind of a shocker to me that he retired so early. So, I hope he does well outside of football, and we shall see. Air Force, they came out with some really cool alternate uniforms. It's to honor the U.S. Space Force with their uniforms. The Semper Supra. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. It's pretty sweet. Brett Favre thinks the 49ers are making a mistake by not starting Jimmy G over Trey Lance. Whew! That's a hot take for a lot of people because Trey Lance may be a better all-around quarterback, but Jimmy G has a lot of heart for the game of football, and I don't disagree with that. But as far as that, I think it's Trey Lance's time in San Francisco. And here's actually what I want to talk about right now. What I've been waiting on, and honestly, this is kind of a surprising list right here. The QB rating for rookies, okay? This is kind of what I look for in rookie quarterbacks during preseason and then their first couple games starting, okay? So, who's on top of the list? Well, it's no surprise to me. I got Kenny Pickett at number 1, who's leading with a pretty marginal lead. 138.6 QBR for the Pittsburgh Steelers rookie. Then we have a rookie that I have witnessed grow in this, not just in the Big 12, really, just in the Big 12. And this guy, he's a really talented quarterback. He is really smart with the ball, but he looks like he wants to his job. And I'm talking about Skylar Thompson. I am very surprised that the level that he's playing on right now, even though he's playing against 2s and 3s right now. But, man, his throwing is just unbelievable. He's the only other quarterback besides Kenny Pickett that has over 100 QBR with 121.3. Now, that's pretty impressive for a guy. Excuse me one moment. As I turn this off. Sorry about that. Anyways, Skylar Thompson has been playing lights out for the Dolphins for the past couple of games against the Bucks and the Raiders. Like making solid passes, and it's just been wow. Next up, you got Desmond Ritter, who's just short of 100 on his QBR, 98.0. Not too bad, but not too great. Kind of expected a little better from Desmond Ritter. If he's trying to, if he's trying to get that starting role, So then you got a guy, also Big 12. Also Big 12. Iowa State quarterback Brock Purdy. Now, I didn't think he was going to get a shot over there in San Francisco, but they let him play, and he's got an okay QBR, but could be better, I mean, if he's given the right tools. But 86.0 for him. Number 5. This guy, he was highly just up there in this year's draft. Malik Willis for the Tennessee Titans. His QBR is 80.5. But I'm not going to knock him for his QBR. I'm not going to knock him at all because he's been running the ball really well. He's been making smart decisions, but at some point you're just like, let him grow. Let him grow, and we'll see what he does for the future in Nashville, So, and then you got a Western Kentucky QB, Bailey Zapp. I think this is below average, but 72.1. North Carolina quarterback Sam Howell, 69.1. And then Matt Corral, surprisingly, with a 49.3. That is very shocking, to say the least. But then again, you're backing up Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. But the good thing about Matt Corral, he's learning how to be an NFL quarterback, and Baker Mayfield is teaching him the ropes that it's not going to be an easy road. I mean, just look at my career. I mean, I'm on top of the interceptions list for QBs that have been drafted since when I was around. So, I mean, for Matt Corral, he's just got to learn how to be patient. And Baker is in the same boat. And before I jump into college football, Jesse Bates ends his holdout. This is 2 days ago. I know it's a little late. You Cincinnati fans love your Bengals news, but Jesse Bates ends his holdout and he signs a franchise tag. So usually that's around a year. So expect for him to be in contract negotiations at the end of the year. But Joshua Moore, former University of Texas Longhorn. I know I'm talking a lot of Texas today because there's a lot of news based around the Longhorns that I've seen. But Joshua Moore has signed with the Houston Gobblers in the USFL. So congratulations to Joshua Moore, local talent around these regions, Yoakum Bulldog. So congratulations to Joshua Moore. And I hope that you get a chance to play in the league. I hope that you tear it up in the USFL, even though you had some a downfall here in Texas as far as like ending it on a bad note here and then moving on to SMU. I mean, heck of an athlete, and I hope that he does well. So now we are going to talk about something that I am really, really excited about. Now, we are going to talk about week zero of college football. Okay? So, why are we talking about week zero, TJ? Because it is the start of college football. It is the start of a freshman who's just starting out, who's scared that he's going to make a simple mistake out on the field, to a senior who's trying to get his draft stock up, a coach that's trying to make a name for himself, really just trying to make things into something beautiful here in college football. So I'm excited about this season. I'm excited about football in general. I mean, I'm going to a game tonight, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but I think there's gonna be teams that are gonna start off with an early slump, with the early morning slump. So hang on one second. The game tonight. So let me do something real quick, folks. All right, nerds. So week one or week zero is what people call it. Week zero of the college football season. First game will start August 27th at 11 o'clock in Western Kentucky. Okay. Now, this first game is the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers taking on the Austin Peay Governors. Now, the Governors, they're an FCS school who has, in the last 5 games, they've won 5, or they've won 4 of their last 5. Same thing with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. They lost to UTSA, and they actually beat Appalachian State last season, who I picked to win the Sun Belt Championship this year. But I feel like that Western Kentucky is going to just implode on Austin Peay this coming up Saturday. I think it's going to be not a very close competition, but I got Western Kentucky by 14. Now we head to Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, I said it, Dublin, Ireland, where 2 Big Ten schools will meet, and they'll battle it out in Dublin. So We got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Okay. They're squaring off against Northwestern. So Nebraska, over the last several years with Scott Frost, really just in the past decade, they've really had a mediocre past 10 years, along pretty similar with Texas. But Northwestern, they've been on a rocky road as well, but they would have a winning season, then a losing season, then a winning season, then a losing season. Um, but I feel like there's something different about Nebraska this season. I think their defense has gotten a lot better. They're a young team. They were a young team last season. Now they're starting to grow a little bit. Scott Frost is pretty much on the hot seat over in Lincoln. Uh, Northwestern, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be an improved team. I think they're gonna be one of those teams to watch out for as a trap game. Um, but that's not what we're here for. We're here for predictions. So Casey Thompson's going to start out for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And what a way to start in Dublin, okay? Dublin, Ireland is a very, very beautiful place to go. I've never been, but I've seen it on TV, so I wish to go to Dublin, Ireland. So who knows? We might see Conor McGregor there watching the game. So I got the Cornhuskers winning. And I got them winning by a solid 10 points. I think it'll be a closer game than what people think. But I got the Cornhuskers winning that game. Then we go to a not as appetizing game to watch, in my opinion. We got the Idaho State Bengals taking on the UNLV Rebels. Now, UNLV in the Mountain West, they are known as the bottom feeders over there. But they have come away with some wins in the last 5 games. Two straight wins before they met up with Air Force and San Diego State. They beat Hawaii and New Mexico, but I mean, let's be honest, this game is really not appealing to the network or to people that are really interested in college football. So it's not a really good introduction game to people that are trying to get into college football because UNLV hasn't been really that consistently well. I think a lot of it has to do with injuries and just a lack of a winning culture over there, and that's kind of what it boils down to. So, in Idaho State, they had trouble with a coach this off season. I mean, it's a mess over there in Idaho State. So I got UNLV winning big against Idaho State. Now we go into a weird FBS versus FBS battle. We got the Yukon Huskies taking on the Utah State Aggies. Now, Yukon, they haven't been really that good either in the last several years. The last time they were good, goodness gracious, I can't even think. But Utah State is a sleeper team to watch. Notable win. Actually, notable wins. They outscored San Diego State 46-13, and San Diego State's ranked 19th or was ranked 19th. And then they beat Oregon State in a bowl game last season, 24-13. Utah State, they're looking pretty strong right now, so I got Utah State winning big this one. Wyoming traveling to Illinois, and Illinois names its starting quarterback DeVito. So, what can the Fighting Illini do this year? Can they get back to their winning? Can they go back to winning games and not be mediocre? That is the thing. And Wyoming, they're kind of an on and off team as well. So you got to be real careful about this game, folks. If you're looking into this game, you really got to be careful. You got to look at who's coming back for Illinois, who's coming back for Wyoming. Wyoming's usually got a really tough defense in the Mountain West, but they're not that what do you call it? They're not that scary to play against, but they're a sleeper team because they beat Utah State pretty bad last season, but they barely lost to Boise State. But Hawaii beat them 38-14 last season, so I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois put some points on the board, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Wyoming created some turnovers. So I'm going to go with an upset pick here. I got Wyoming beating Illinois at Illinois by 3 points. I got a G5. That's my first G5 beating a Power 5 this year. That's my take. Now, here's our first ACC school playing an FCS team. Now, this team, they have struggled. They have lost to an FCS team in the last couple of years. But it looked like they were starting to come together last season, but it just didn't work out. But Florida State, they really have fallen from the graces of the college football mountain ever since Jameis Winston left and Jimbo Fisher left. The way it was, it turned into a mess. And I feel like they fired Willie Taggart way too soon. I think he was starting to get something going over there. But hopefully Norville can turn it around this season for the Noles as they face a team that really got it together last season, even though it's a FCS school. I'm still going with the Noles because of the fact that I feel like they have a lot of talent this season. They're really written off this season as a 5-7 team, but I really do think they're going to bounce back. I don't think they're going to win 9 or 8 games. I think they're just going to be one of those mid-tier teams this year. So I got the Noles big against Duquesne. I can't even say the name. All right, so we got Florida Atlantic taking on Charlotte. So Charlotte, they're also in the Sun Belt. Meanwhile, the Florida Atlantic Owls, they're in the Conference USA. So you got a Sun Belt versus Conference USA battle going on here. Last season, Charlotte really didn't get anything going. They kept getting ran up, but they did beat Rice in overtime, so that's a key factor. They beat Rice last season. Meanwhile, Florida Atlantic, they kind of did the same thing. But they did beat UTEP, so this one's a toss-up right here, but I got Florida Atlantic winning at home. Next up, we got the Mac Brown, North Carolina Tar Heels taking on Florida A&M Rattlers. Now, they're a 99.6% favorite over the Rattlers from Florida A&M. North Carolina. Oh, excuse me. Goodness gracious, I'm tired. They just named a starter, May. We'll get to see what he's like Saturday night as he goes up against a FCS squad. Kind of a really good tune-up game for North Carolina, I think. I think the Tar Heels are going to win that easily. Next up, you got what I think is a rivalry. North Texas Mean Green squaring off against the UTEP Miners in El Paso in the Sun Bowl. So North Texas, they've been really surprising over the last couple of years. Mason Fine, they just been really consistently winning. Not like at 11-1. I'm talking about like a 7-5, 8-5 type of team. They're one of those teams you got to watch out for. Meanwhile, UTEP, on the other hand, they haven't been doing so well. I mean, last season they barely lost to North Texas, but at the same time, they haven't really done anything as far as being in a bowl game or actually putting up anything, So I got North Texas easy in this game. Then we got Nevada taking on New Mexico State. Nevada is picked as the favorites in this one. They won 2 of their last 5 games. San Jose State and Colorado State. Their most notable games, though, are 2 losses that were pretty strong losses. Now, strong losses are you play a really tough team that you really don't have a chance against, but you really bring the best out of them, and you actually give them a scare. And this is what I'm talking about. San Diego State and Air Force. They barely lost to San Diego State 23-21, and they barely lost in 3 overtimes to the Falcons of Air Force, 41-39 in triple overtime. Meanwhile, New Mexico State, they just been clobbered by pretty much everybody except for UMass. Okay. Now, UMass, they're the biggest juggernaut up in the East Coast. So that says something. Not really, but Nevada by 3 touchdowns, I think. And last but not least for this weekend and for week 0 is what I like to call it. We have the SEC's Vanderbilt heads to Hawaii this season. Now, Vanderbilt's got a new look going. They got a new swagger going. The Commodores are looking to change the narrative of what Vanderbilt football really is. And I'm excited for Vanderbilt this season. I mean, they were a young team last season. They're going up against a Hawaii team who is coming off of 2 wins of their last 5 games. They played against really tough teams like San Diego State, Utah State, and UNLV. Came away with big wins over Wyoming and Colorado State. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt, they barely lost to Mississippi State 45-6. Barely lost to Tennessee 45-21. And Ole Miss 31-17. I mean, that's a strong team right there, you know. But enough with the theatrics of me being sarcastic about Vanderbilt. I don't think Vanderbilt is going to be a national championship team. I don't ever think they're going to be a national championship team. Their coach during the SEC press conference made a ridiculous statement that Vanderbilt was going to be a national championship team and the next dynasty or whatever he said. It was weird and outlandish. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be that good this season. I don't even think Vanderbilt's going to go to a bowl game. As a matter of fact, I don't think they're going to beat Hawaii at Hawaii. I got Hawaii winning this, and another upset that I got this week by at least a touchdown. I don't think Vanderbilt is going to be that team yet. They're picked as the favorites. But are they going to do that? Absolutely not. Not to mention, you're in a tough conference. You got to play against Florida. You got to play against Tennessee, who is supposed to be really, really good this season. You got to go against Alabama at Tuscaloosa, South Carolina, Missouri, the defending national champs, Georgia. I mean, if they do win, it's not going to be against any SEC team. They're probably going to be 3-9, but I do have Hawaii winning. And I don't think that Vanderbilt's going to be that good this season. I think it's just going to be a terrible season for Vanderbilt because of that karma. You never want to say that you're going to be this when you don't have the tools for it. Okay? Why do you think Nick Saban is the way he is? You know? He's not an asshole because he's being an asshole. And when he gives constructive criticism about his team, it's because they're not perfect. Nobody is perfect, okay? So I'm really hoping that Vanderbilt really turns it around to where they are a team that could be reckoned with in the SEC. But I just don't see that happening. I really don't. I think it's just one of those things that Vanderbilt needs to learn, that they're just a baseball school until they get the right recruits and until they can beat the teams that they're playing against, until they can beat Tennessee. Okay? So that concludes today's podcast. And yeah, so my final take is this. College football is back. Things are starting to shake up here in the NFL. We'll go over more about the preseason as the preseason starts to wind down next week. So expect me and Caleb on for quite a while. Okay. And we'll be talking about college football. We'll be talking about what key injuries for every team in the NFL. But the only reason why I picked those games is because those are the only games that are on tap this week. The following week, that's when you'll start seeing top 25 teams in there. I'm not gonna pick teams that are not in the top 25 or really FCS schools. I'm just gonna pick top 10, top 25 games. That's what I think we should do as a podcast instead of talking about the entire top 25, because you never know, they could be playing against schools like Incarnate Word. Not discrediting that team, just saying like you can't put up Clemson against Incarnate Word. You can talk about how Clemson looked good against Incarnate Word or looked terrible against Incarnate Word. But I'm just throwing that out as an example. That's not a real game this season. But I just feel like as a podcast, we don't need to talk about unnecessary games. I feel like there was a lot of unnecessary games to talk about right there, but there was no top 25, so might as well just throw those in, So, and it's really the start of college football, so why not include those games in there? Even though I know most of the games are going to be the exact outcome, I think, or even worse, So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be one of those things to watch out for this season. I really do think that there's going to be a lot of upsets this season. I really do think there's going to be a lot of shockers this season. Heisman is going to be a shocker this season. I think that's another thing I'm going to talk about next week. I didn't get a chance to talk about today, but we'll talk more about it next week as I'll go over the college football side of the PMP and talk about the Heisman Trophy frontrunners, just like Bryce Young, defending Heisman Trophy winner, who might go into the NFL draft. That's if he wins a national championship. C.J. Stroud, another one in there. Bijan Robinson. I mean, people are looking into him. He's going to have a good year. I am telling you right now, as a Longhorn fan and as an amateur analyst, I really do think that Bijan Robinson is going to have really good numbers. And even though Junior Angulau is hurt and Isaiah Nayor is out for the rest of the season, I really do think that Bijan Robinson and Longhorns are going to have a good year. Now, are they going to win the Big 12? Or are they going to win national championship? Absolutely not. I don't think they're that ready yet. I think they're close, but I don't think they're that ready yet. And plus, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid this year. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid anymore because I'm just tired of being disappointed. So I'm really excited about college football, though, because it's back, baby. And the week after, we have NFL. And we will have normality again, folks, because I have been tired of watching baseball, basketball, and trying to find something new. And by the way, for all my gamers out there, Madden 23 that just came out, I got a chance to play it on the PlayStation 5, and whew, I love it. I normally don't say this about Madden too often, but I love it. The franchise mode is amazing. The gameplay is incredible. You can actually lead your receivers throwing the ball. And I tell you what, I'm excited for what's to come for the next gen console for Madden. Hopefully, we can get it cross-platform. I'm sick and tired of Madden not doing the cross-platform. I think Madden needs to do the cross-platform. So that concludes this podcast. We are the best damn podcast here in all of college football, NFL, USFL, XFL, whatever football league that pops up that The Rock owns, apparently. We are the cream of the crop of all podcasting. We are the PMP. Thank you for watching, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.